Andrew Huberman. He takes magnesium, he takes zinc, he takes vitamin D, vitamin K2, Tonkat Ali. He uses ashwagandha as well for sleep and stress, NMN, and he also takes rhodiola rosea, which is again another traditional medicinal supplement. Taking care of your gut, it's a very important thing to do. The best advice I could give is I think the best thing you could do for yourself is actually focus on getting good food first and then supplementing. Welcome back to the show. Today we're going to be talking about supplements, and before I dive into supplements, there's a couple of things that I'll put out there. None of the supplements that I'm talking about is something that you should be going out to take or use, and essentially you will need to get the advice of a health practitioner or even a doctor in order for you to use any of these supplements, because I do not know your history, and being a medical doctor, it's just a disclaimer I have to put out there. Now, with that being said, I would say that for most people, if you spoke to doctors, nutritionists, or even dietitians, a lot of them will say that you should be getting most of your macronutrients, essentially giving you energy when you take part in everyday activity and sports, and micronutrients, which are essential to almost feed the vital organs in your body from your food. So essentially, whatever you take in terms of food should be able to give you your macro and micronutrients. But the challenge that most people have, including myself, is that we tend to eat food that actually has very low value in terms of the macro and micronutrients required for everyday activities. And for this reason, it's almost like when you decide to have a toasted cheese sandwich for lunch, which I know a lot of people I know, including colleagues and friends, have that as lunch, and often even missing lunch, which is something that I've done many times before. And so that's where supplements kind of come in, whereby you're actually supplementing what you're not getting through your diet. Now, things like vitamin D has been around for a very long time, and it's a supplement that's very acceptable. And the reason for this is because of the fact that if you spend a lot of time in the sun, there is a risk of skin cancer. And especially where I am in Australia, this is a very common thing that happens. And for that reason, vitamin D levels can be quite low. Now, vitamin D is also important for other things, including bone health. And so it is very much accepted in the community to take a supplement like vitamin D. But today, I'm going to break down some of the supplements that have been discussed by experts in the field of longevity in health. And some of the names that I mentioned would be people that you've either seen or listened to on a podcast before. And I was going to break down some of their supplements which they use on a daily basis. And at the end of it, I'm going to give you a summary of what I believe you should be taking, or what I believe that most people should be taking as a baseline, rather than sort of a blanket rule for most people. Now, we'll start with the first expert that I have, which is Rhonda Patrick. And she is a biologist and an expert in longevity and has been in this field for a very long time. Now, what's interesting about this is when I did my research on these experts, what I found was they keep changing their daily routine based on what findings there are at the moment. And that's not unusual, because obviously when things get updated, they move with those updated recommendations. And so with Rhonda Patrick, a common theme here that I was finding is that fish oil, especially omega-3s, is a big part of her supplementation. And the reason why omega-3 is quite big and that a lot of people use it is because you can get it from fish. We can get it from krill as well, especially krill oil or fish oil. But we don't get as much omega-3 when you compare it to omega-6, which we get a larger amount of. And omega-6 are the sort of the dangerous fish oils. And when I say dangerous, I'm going to preface it by saying that it's not dangerous, because we do require omega-6, but we tend to get a lot more than we get omega-3. So fish oil would be one of them that actually pops up. The other would be vitamin C. Now, we know vitamin C helps with immunity and wound healing and a whole bunch of other factors that it can help with. She also has probiotics. She's got zinc, which helps in immunity again and also wound healing. There's magnesium. And magnesium is an interesting supplement, because many people forget that you require magnesium in your body for lots of things. And I think the thing that commonly comes to people's mind is that they think of magnesium when they have cramps or as a way of relaxing, but it does help for both of them. But magnesium basically runs through our whole system. And I often think of the time where when you think of use and patients requiring magnesium, it almost lubricates the electrical circuits in your heart. And so it's a very vital supplement to have. And unfortunately, we don't get a lot of it through the food we eat. She also has multivitamins, which is a whole bunch of vitamins mixed together, and she probably takes that. Vitamin K2. Now, vitamin K2 is important for a host of things, including clotting, bone health, and it's often good to take vitamin K2 with vitamin D. She also has vitamin D, obviously, and again, you can get most of it through the sun, but the challenge is getting out in the sun and getting the amounts. And some people do not absorb it as much, and they require a lot of time to be in the sun for them to actually get the levels of vitamin D required. Moving on, we got Peter Attia. And Peter Attia is a doctor, and he's also very interested in the field of longevity. I believe he's written a book recently about longevity as well. And he has a lot of protocols when it comes to circuit training and exercise in order to getting the best out of your exercise rather than just pushing your body to the extremes. Now, he has vitamin D. He also has magnesium. He's got methylfolate and methyl B12. Essentially, he has done testing for his body type and found that he requires that. I'll probably do another episode where I sort of talk about the different forms of supplements and exactly what they do and how they function. I could almost make an episode on each one. Let me know if that's something that interests you, and I'll probably do it. He's got vitamin B6 that he takes 2 or 3 times a week. He's got aspirin. And it was interesting when I was listening to one of his talks about aspirin. He's not 100% sure where the benefit is, but taking a baby aspirin, which is a small dose of 100 milligrams, he just tends to find that gives him a benefit that he thinks would be useful. Obviously, there's the cardiovascular benefit of aspirin that a lot of people are on, especially if you've had heart disease. He's on probiotics. Again, he's on fish oil. He takes protein shakes. And then he takes ashwagandha, which is really almost like an Indian ginseng, if you were to think about it that way. And what ashwagandha does is that it actually reduces your cortisol levels and it relaxes you. And so a lot of people actually take it at night because it helps them sleep. The problem with ashwagandha is that you can't take it for a very long time because you really don't want to suppress that much cortisol in your body. And for that reason, I think some people cycle through it. Moving on, the next expert that I have, or sort of compiled their sort of supplementation, is David Sinclair. Now, David Sinclair is a biologist, but he's well known for longevity and reducing his biological age by taking supplementation. He takes resveratrol, and that's a polyphenol, and it's commonly found in grapes. And you may have heard some people saying that you can get it from wine, which is interesting because in order to get the equivalent dose for resveratrol, you would have to drink 40 liters of wine per day just to get the same amount. So using the idea that you need to drink wine to get it probably doesn't work. Then he uses NMN, which is nicotinamide mononucleotide. And essentially, again, I can do an entire episode on this NMN. But an easy way to remember NMN is the fact that NMN gets converted to NAD+. And NAD+ is used for repair, for energy, and it also helps with aging. And so taking NMN, getting converted to NAD+ really is a process of improving or optimizing your health and even your cognition. He takes quercetin, which is found in lots of fruits and berries. It helps with a whole bunch of things, including reflux, anti-inflammatory properties, reducing blood pressure. Now, again, you can get quercetin from a lot of fruits. And I guess he believes that with taking quercetin, you're going to improve the longevity of your health, but you have to be taking that for quite a long time for that to actually work. He's on vitamin D and vitamin K2, omega-3s, and he's also on CoQ10, which it's an antioxidant that we have within our bodies, but it actually reduces if you take or cholesterol medication. And I believe he has issues with diabetes and also heart disease, which is why he's on cholesterol medication. He's on statins, and that's why he supplements with CoQ10. Moving on, we have Andrew Huberman. Now, he's a neuroscientist and an associate professor in Harvard. If you don't know who he is, you can look him up because most people know him right now. He's made a lot of waves in the industry, especially when it comes to his protocols for health and also for longevity. He takes magnesium, he takes zinc, he takes vitamin D, and again, vitamin K2. Now, with vitamin K2, you can actually get that from eating liver and cheese and even fermented foods. So you can get quite a lot of K2 through that. And one way to think about it is that with vitamin K, it sort of stabilizes your clotting factors. And with K2, that's probably how it helps. Often taken with vitamin D, as mentioned earlier. Then he takes some other supplements, which are sort of would be considered traditional medicinal supplements. And one of them is Tongkat Ali, which is almost like an Indonesian ginseng. And when people think of Tongkat Ali, they often think of male libido and increasing your sexual drive, which it does help. But the reality is it does a lot more. It increases your energy. It can almost it increases your free testosterone. And so probably both of them put together improves the sexual aspect that a lot of people talk about. I believe he takes it more for performance and cognitive increases in energy. He uses ashwagandha as well for sleep and stress. And a man, he takes that as well. And he also takes rhodiola rosea, which is again another traditional medicinal supplement that helps with physical performance when you're exercising and you're trying to just have an advantage in that perspective. And finally, he takes glycine and GABA, which are inhibitory neurotransmitters. So essentially what they do is they kind of dial everything down, and therefore that allows you to get more into a restful state. So I've chosen these 4 experts because they're pretty much, in most places, when you read or you listen to podcasts or you watch videos, they kind of pop up and they've come up with their own supplements. But I think the main point of this video was really the fact that most people are actually focusing on the wrong things. Now, taking these supplements to get to peak performance is not really going to help if your diet is already quite bad, if you're mentally quite stressed, if you're not sleeping well, and you've got a whole bunch of other things going on, such as not having good relationships and community and all of that. So the whole idea of getting good supplements is the fact that we should start with the basics. You really should be focusing on the type of food you eat and ensuring that they have good macro and micronutrients, and keep it really basic. I think for most people, the best advice I could give is, and I remember going for a functional medicine conference, and essentially everything was rolled up into just one statement, which is, if you can eat vegetables, lots of different colors, eat some meat if you eat meat. If not, plant protein, whatever that is for you, eat that. Fish, anything that is actually just healthy food that most people know what's healthy, not fried. Essentially, it can be cooked, but nothing with too much oils that will increase your trans fats, obviously. If you can keep to the basics and eat food like that and eat a good amount where your plate's full of vegetables and then you have some meat or some protein source on the side, that will probably get you a longer way than focusing on the supplements you should be taking. For most people, including a lot of patients that I've seen over the years and even myself, I think the quickest fix is to get a supplement to try to improve something. While you're optimizing in this area, you're actually not optimizing in the other parts of your life. And so for that reason, I think the best thing you could do for yourself is actually focus on getting good food first and then supplementing. Now, with that being said, if you were going to supplement, just looking at these 4 different experts, I would keep it really basic and essentially focus on some of the common threads that I found that all 4 of them took. One of them being magnesium. Magnesium is just amazing for your body. It relaxes you. It basically lubricates your electrical circuits in your body as well. And it's something that we often don't take as much as we need. And so I would add magnesium. The other thing I would add is probably zinc. Now, zinc is good for immunity and also for sort of wound healing. It is used in the medical world as well, surgically, especially when they're trying to promote wound healing as well. So magnesium, zinc. The other one I would do is vitamin D, obviously. Now, vitamin D, again, I could make an entire episode. I don't think it's been studied well enough, but there have been so much research out there talking about all the benefits of vitamin D, including the ability for cognition as well. And so taking vitamin D would be another great one. Vitamin K2, it kind of goes hand in hand with vitamin D. Next, you have fish oils, especially your omega-3s. You want to be able to increase that. Now, the important thing with fish oil is that you want to make sure you get it from a good source, because if it oxidizes or if it gets damaged within the packet, it can actually be more detrimental for your health rather than good for you. So you want to make sure you get a good source of omega-3. You have vitamin C, which is probably a low-hanging fruit. You can take it if you want, if you don't, but it's something to have. And I would say maybe probiotics as well, which is not a bad thing to have, especially because it helps with your gut flora and ensures that if your gut flora is not right and you have issues like bloating and abdominal pain, then there's something wrong, and that's going to affect your entire system. So when the way I look at it is it's not multiple systems, but if one goes down, it then affects the rest of the body. And so try to focus on things that are causing you discomfort right now, because that's a signal to you that something is wrong. And so taking care of your gut it's a very important thing to do. So probiotics, I would definitely add it there. The rest of them, I mean, the reality is, especially when I look at Andrew Huberman sort of protocols and some of the things he takes, I wouldn't be adding any of them unless you had the basics down packed and you knew you've optimized for your entire body and you know where you stand. For a lot of these experts, they're probably getting their blood tested maybe 2 or 3 times a year just to make sure that they're at the right levels. So when they supplement with some of these medications, not really medications, but supplements and traditional medicines, they're often checking their liver, they're checking their blood, they're checking their thyroid function to make sure that, there's nothing wrong with that. And so I wouldn't be going to that part until everything is down packed. But I thought this would be helpful just to give you an idea of some of the things out there and some of the things that these experts are taking. And again, I'm not saying that this is something you have to take, and I'm not even saying that this is definitely a protocol you should be following. And I believe a lot of them say that too as well. They don't believe in telling people what they take, because everybody's body is different and everybody needs different things. Unless you know and you've tested different parts with blood tests and other things to check what you need for your genetic makeup, it's very hard to just go by what others are taking. But despite me saying that, people still like to kind of jump on and find out what supplements they should be doing to improve their life when the basics aren't taken care of. So if you ever start any supplementation or you're not sure, please check with your health practitioner or your doctor. I've mentioned it earlier because it's very important. None of this is medical advice, and it's important for you to check what is important for your health specifically, rather than just going by what others are taking. Now, I hope that helped, and I'll catch you in the next episode.